Welcome to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we are in the second day of pool play at the USA Ultimate College Championships. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald, joined by Laurel Oldershaw, where we have Oregon versus Ohio State in an exciting pool play match. And this is part of our continuing coverage. Both teams with a storied program and really looking to advance today. Oregon with a few national championships under their belt, but Ohio State also with a national championship in 2014. So Oregon had the national championship in 2010, 2013, and 2015, but Ohio State in the mix in 2014. So Laurel, talk about some of the implications of this pool play game.
Stanford playing North Carolina State, and so the point differential between that game will impact which three teams do go ahead, because there is the potential for a three-way tie. So right now the big thing is that it's not only do or die for Oregon, it's do or die +5, and Ohio State has to keep that do or die with less than 3. So it's going to be a great game, definitely a lot of strategy, but both teams are going to be really looking for it.
So there's the first pull. Oregon will go on offense. A lot of separation from the handlers to the cutters. And there's the look underneath to Caldwell. Hansen working in that handler space, gets it up line.
Ella Hansen, the Callahan nominee for Oregon.
There's Hess on the sideline, hoping to find Hansen. She does, and Hansen knocking on the goal line to try and put the first points on the board. There's the around backhand, and Hansen to Caldwell for the score.
And it's a great job there we see from Rachel Hess, tempting the upline cut, but keeping the space so that her defender, Sadie Jazierski, is out of the way, which opens up this space for Hansen to throw a backhand break into space for Caldwell. We see pretty much Caldwell and Hansen going every other for that point. Don't know if that was planned, but that works between the two teammates.
So first offensive possession for Oregon results in a score, no turnovers from either team, because Oregon never turned it over, and they started with the disc.
Oregon, a very clean point. Hansen is definitely going to be playing a lot this game as that, I shouldn't say as that nominee, but it's representative of why she's one of the Callahan nominees and one of the top 5 finalists for sure. On the other side, talking to these teams before, Oregon's goal is going to be to really continue to be moving fast pace and to just have fun with their teams. They are a team of energy, you could say. A lot of fun to be on that squad. And Ohio State, their goal is going to be really just to continue to play fast, to move the disc. They feel really great about their person defense and just to keep that pressure on Oregon.
So Hansen to pull to Ohio State, and that pull will land in the end zone. 3 handlers back from OSU.
There's a junk look here from Oregon. Transitions now until person defense. I like that, kind of takes away the initial potential cut or a play call that Ohio State might have.
Reef found Sandstrom, and Tiffany Lim looking upfield for Barrett. OSU on this near sideline for almost the entire point, close to the end zone. Swings around to limb. And looking, will it stay in bounds? There's the layout attempt, but the disc is down.
And a great play, you know, if we saw that replay, you take a look at this later. Number 54, Stephanie Stumphauser clears that side, does an upline cut to really open up space for those cutters. And for that around a break. Tough luck though, going out of bounds.
Some conversation on the field and injury substitution. So Oregon will pick up high point from Ofterheide, swinging around to Boyle. Boyle continuing to Rogers. Centers to Hansen. Hansen, immediate flick huck. Natalie Clifton in the deep space. And Oregon with the break, going up 2-0 early.
And that's one of the breaks Oregon is gonna need. So like we said, they're gonna need to score 5. They're gonna have to have a point differential of greater than 4 in order to take this, or to take second place in the pool and move on to the next round. And they're gonna need throws like that. Oregon's doing a great job on that play to have a lot of leading throws. So both from Aufderheide and from Boyle, kind of those arounds to the following player, that their teammate can run onto it and maintain that space between them and their defender.
So Oregon holding to start the game and then getting a quick break up 2-0. Ohio State, though, hoping to answer now and put their first points on the board of the game.
Yeah, so Oregon's gonna keep this pressure defense, this high pressure defense going. They are a fast, fiery team, and they're gonna wanna really bring that. Ohio State, a little bit more strategy, a little bit more using all 7, trying to really spread the width of the field.
Haley Walrus to pull for Oregon. Lots of hang time, and is caught by Zhang. Zhang, the 5'6" sophomore, swinging around to Stumphauser. And Walrus with the D, a chance for a second consecutive break for Oregon. Swinging around, pass is incomplete. Another offensive opportunity for Ohio State, immediately with the huck. Go-to grab. And Sieber with the disc over to Jezierski in the end zone. And Whitney Schott scores for the first point of this game.
That's a great hold for Ohio State. Their big kind of run and gun offense. And you see Jezierski and Walrus give each other a hug. They know each other well. They've been playing against each other. Walrus, a former Callahan nominee from last year, so that's quite the luck that they got her around for a 5th year. But it's going to be fun to see her playing with Hansen, as both of them are both great throwers, great defenders, and great cutters, and really the whole package.
And Oregon had the opportunity to get their 3rd consecutive goal of the game. However, Ohio State taking advantage of a miscue on the goal line for their first point.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of those games for Ohio State that's just essentially, we need to take care of business. We need to make sure we're throwing to people that we know are open, and we're hitting the systems that we know how to play, and we are just handling this game because they really just want to wrap up this round, knowing they have another pre-quarters game coming up this evening. There is the risk for them as well, because we won't know the score of the Stanford North Carolina State game. There is the chance that Ohio State, if they lose by more than 5, this could be their last chance at it all. So they definitely want to just take care of business right now.
We will try and keep you updated on the Stanford NC State game. Luckily, we have the USA Ultimate app which I highly recommend everyone download if you are a fan of Ultimate or plan on playing in any tournaments. Walrus with the disc, backhand, up the line, layout, keeps it open for Caldwell. Strike to Hansen. She sees the receiver going deep. A lot of float, but out of range for Rachel Hess.
Just a little too far. And that's where great throwers, you want to really master not only those 40-yard deep hucks, but the 30 yards ones too. Something that you know is a guaranteed catch and a guaranteed field gain in space.
Ohio State picking up, walking to the line, Annalise Peters. Nice grab from Jezierski. Deep look, Emily Barrett. OSU looking for a chance to tie it up. On the goal line, gets the dump. Ohio State in the end zone set. Peters valuing possession. Stacy Liu go up line, and one-handed grab from Sadie Jezierski for Ohio State to tie it up.
Yeah, that's a big break from Ohio State. Jezierski, great point overall with that big huck, and Barrett is a big deep cutter. They're gonna have to figure out a way to contain her for Oregon to be successful. And you see just this patience from Fever, and Jezierski, she's no rookie to the national stage. She comes in full body and is hyped after that. So she's gonna really be one of the key factors to this game for Ohio State.
So right off the bat, we have breaks from both teams, and we are tied at 2 apiece. Championship bracket implications on the line in this pool play game. The second day of the USA Ultimate College Championships. We're so glad you're watching on the USA Ultimate social media channels. If you're watching this, it's either on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. But did you know that USA Ultimate also has an Instagram and a Snapchat?
That is right. And I believe we have Trent Dillon and Jesse Schaffner on the Instagram stories.
We
so
do.
Lots of fun there.
You can watch Oregon alum Jesse Schaffner. I'm sure she will have some posts from this game. Saw her earlier on the Oregon sideline. Hansen receives the pull for Oregon. She will walk it to where it goes out of bounds, relying on the observer.
Yeah, and that pull right on the line, just a reminder that anything that touches the line is considered out.
Hansen, flick huck again, looking for Walrus. Walrus, one-handed catch, and there's that continue to Caldwell. Quick answer back from Oregon.
And that's great space. Ella Hansen has the entire field to work with, and a deep cutter like Haley Walrus, who's physical and goes up and gets it. And she just cuts straight in the middle of the field, which allows Hansen to throw it to the far left side, closer to the screen.
And great continuation cut from Caldwell. That disc movement, really the best of the best of the best.
And Caldwell, a name you might not hear very often because you're on a team with somebody like Haley Walrus and Ella Hansen. But Caldwell, as we saw in the first point, really giving going with Hansen, and now being a fantastic continue cutter to keep up. She has great athleticism, great speed, and great endurance. So she'll be a key factor going throughout this entire game.
So Oregon goes to a 1-goal lead. They're 3, Ohio State 2. It's a game to 15. Half is at 8. And the time clock you see on the screen is to hard cap. So soft cap will be 20 minutes sooner than that. We'll hope to keep you up to date should it come to a soft cap scenario, or hard cap scenario for that matter. There's the pull from Oregon. Has some angle on the disc. Lands and rolls. Ohio State quickly swinging it across. Jezierski puts up the huck, and right out of the hands of Sheridan Cleve.
And that's a great huck coming from such a low angle to have it have such great distance. Really great disc skills there from Jezierski.
And run through D. Emily Barrett gets it back for OSU. Jezierski, eyes on the end zone. And there is contact, but no call.
Yeah, big D there from Emily Fagan of Oregon to notice Jezierski looking for that backhand break side where Barrett was cutting to.
Ohio State on defense. Oregon with another opportunity. There's a bobble. It's back to OSU. They're in the black with the red stripe. Oregon wearing their whites. And there was a strip call foul.
No contest.
High release flick. Jezierski just really looking for Barrett in the end zone.
High release lefty flick. So that's a throw you don't see very often from a righty. But I think she kind of bit her tongue knowing that's, as much as she might have that throw, it's not the one you want to make in a game like this.
1-on-1, and positioning is good from Catherine Sandstrom.
That's great positioning right there. Way to body out her Oregon offender.
Another huck up in the air, this time Jezierski, the receiver, she will milk it in. And what would you call that celebration? The running swim?
The like double windmill?
Yes.
Moving, yeah. I don't know. That's great though. Jezierski is having, I think, the most fun this game. Every single score she's now been involved in, I believe all of them in game essentially, or every single point. And what that does is, one, it does allow for a fast, quick offense. However, it does burn a lot of speed and a lot of energy from both sides of the disc, so both on defense and on offense. The question of being, it's hot out here. How far will these both teams get with their legs? And then similarly, are they going to be at all focused on, the game tonight? I imagine not, because they're just trying to make it there, and there is some time between now and about 5 when it starts, but they're going to really want to be considerate of the fact that they're running a ton in that deep huck style play.
So the pull lands about 2/3 of the way down the field. Hansen picking up. Caldwell getting open underneath. Hansen will find Walrus instead. Walrus, backhand huck. Caldwell, eyes on the end zone and the disc. Another quick score and third goal for Caldwell.
Yeah, things are moving fast today. And there's that deep huck we see again. Caldwell, I'm very curious to see how much leg she has just towards the end, just for mere shock and surprise, because I don't have those legs. But that is extremely impressive. You see a lot of space too with so many people behind the disc. It means that Walrus, who has great touch and great strength and power, can just put a lot of spin on it and allow it to float into the end zone where Caldwell can run onto it.
So Oregon will go up by 1, 4-3 in this first half of play. Laurel, we already have folks tuning in from all over the place. An Ohio State alum in Southern California.
Okay.
Watching also in Singapore, because the mixed division, the Asia Oceanic Ultimate, is happening this weekend. Their nationals is happening. I have some friends on the Singapore team. So glad their teammates are tuning in. Be sure to join the conversation on Twitter and on Instagram. # USAU D1 Champs.
Yeah, and we're going to need to see, though, Oregon has got to step it up and start getting some breaks. They're, with their legs being so limited, they have a pretty small roster this year. If they wait until that second half to get all 5 of the breaks that they need, they might not get them.
And right away, Hess, with that interception, resets to Hansen. However, there is discussion on the field. So, foul called. Players do not have to go to the observer, but they can. This is a self-officiated game. Observers are there, though, to help explain the rules. And a foul. The disc will go back to Hess, coming in on 1. Will still reset to Hansen.
Great defense there on Hansen to cut, to take away that break option.
Hansen,
Ooh.
straight shot to the end zone. That is a break. Shea Davis with the score.
And what Hansen does great right there on that play is having already done such a great job faking that backhand break, pulls the defender even farther out, is expecting it, and that opens up the IO break for Hansen to attack. And great recognition from Hansen, who probably practices that turn and fake just to hit that open side player.
So Oregon will take their biggest lead of the game so far. They are up 5 to Ohio State's 3. And
this could be the start of something good. You know, they're up 2 right now. They've got to get to +5, so that would be 15-10 if we go to full time. Right, if we get to soft cap or hard cap sooner than when the time runs out on the screen, then we might have a smaller game point, in which case this 3 from Ohio State is much more significant. So Oregon, I think, has to work quickly and work efficiently in order to start getting that lead and maintaining it.
so in the other round in this pool, Stanford currently has a 4-1 lead over NC State. Here, Oregon with the 5-3 lead over Ohio State. Walrus pulling. Caught by Zhang to Jezierski. Stumpfhauser swinging across. Jezierski patient, finding Barrett upfield. Stumpfhauser on the far sideline. Inside, Jezierski up the line. It's a strike and around to Tiffany Lim. Swinging across, Henderson, and just behind Pruitt. So Oregon back on offense. Ohio State little delayed getting back on their defensive matchups. Walrus with the huck, and it's caught, not in. Dishing, and right out of the hands of Davis.
That's tough. That was a great, so you see Oregon is really looking to get it in the hands of Hansen or Walrus to take those deep shots and to really get the disc not only close to end zone, but to really score quickly and efficiently.
Jezierski looking for Barrett. Barrett, you could see the determination in her face, but little too much on the throw. Another shot for Oregon.
Yeah, so Jezierski also trying to play that run and gun game.
Boyle in the deep space, guarded one-on-one, but Boyle is there and gets the score for Oregon.
That's a big catch against Corinne Pruitt, number 16, Ohio State's Callahan Namahi. So that really says something. That's a big move right there. Mentally, you got to be hyped for Oregon right now. And that's 2 breaks in a row.
It is. Maddie Boyle recognizing and going deep. Available for that score. Now Oregon going up 3. Half is at 8. But Ohio State with the opportunities to score.
And I believe Ohio State takes a timeout right here. Just kind of check in. I imagine calm the pace. Oregon's trying to play at a very high energy level. I think partly because they have everything to lose, or nothing to lose, I guess, at this point. Or if they lose this game, or if they even win by 4, or if they win by 4, So this is something that's interesting. They have a better, what happens is it goes to a point differential for the whole pool. They have a better, and that includes then Stanford, who's currently placed as the #1, and Cornell is currently placed as the 5th seed. That is assuming that Stanford beats North Carolina State. The question then becomes, what is the point differential between all 5 teams for them? At the moment, Oregon does have a better point diff with all 5 teams compared to Ohio State. But I'm not quite sure the difference, or it really depends on the score of that Stanford versus North Carolina State game on who's going to go ahead. So it's high stakes. Oregon's really coming out firing, knowing that they have to win by 5, which actually, if you think back to 1999, the USA Soccer Team World Cup, when they had to beat, I believe it was Japan by 4.
Phenomenal match.
Yeah, and they came out, just turned it on mentally and said, we're going to do this, and did it. And so this kind of feels very similar to that same emotion of, you know what, we are the team, we're going to do it, and we're going to get it done. And Oregon having a history as a program of being a really run and gun and fast team, I would be very unsurprised if they completed that challenge today.
Ella Hansen, certainly a big part of the Oregon offense. Ohio State with the disc, Jajerski. Lots of short swings.
So you see now kind of zone playing where it's, they had a 3-person kind of zone in the front with a person in the back. They've now transitioned to in-person defense.
Striking, up line, Jajerski in power position. And that was intended for Kara Sieber, but is incomplete. Clifton walking up to the line. Oregon getting it in the hands of Hansen, and Hansen with that flick huck all day. Fagan completes it to Caldwell. Not in, up the line, Clifton gets the goal.
That's a great point by Oregon, and I think not only shows how in their program there's the run and gun game, there is also the speed, the technicality and the touch and the quality of the skill. So Fagan catching it deep, having a ton of patience not to just immediately throw it away, but waits for her players to catch up, her teammates to catch up, so she can hit that open side unders and have a much safer throw.
So if you've just joined us, you're watching pool play game here at the USA Ultimate College Championships. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Laurel Oldershaw. Oregon with their largest lead of the game. So far going on a 5-1 run against Ohio State. Ohio State, though, storied program, winning the national championship in 2014. But then Oregon turned around the next year and won it in 2015.
Yeah, and actually, Deanna Ball, head coach of Ohio State, was coaching back then, and Stevie Miller, the assistant coach, was playing on that team. So a lot of institutional knowledge for Ohio State to bring back that same quality and high-level play.
Hang time on the pole. It's caught.
So again, we see kind of that junky first look from Oregon. Haley Walrus is in the deep.
Stumphauser and Peters working it.
Number 36 of Oregon, Boyle, doing a really good job at taking away that center space, which forces those throws to the side just like that, and that's what Oregon's looking for.
And another end zone right away, but Annalise Peters is there. Sees an open receiver in Sieber downfield. That's hanging, but intercepted by Angstadt-Lido. So another opportunity for Oregon.
Great defense there from Angstad-Lido to catch up to the disc. The challenge, right, of this wind is it's still a little windy, not as much as it was earlier, but that means discs are going to float if they're thrown too high.
A pick called downfield. Boyle has the disc, coming in on 6. Stahl is at 10. Angstad-Lido with the disc. Looking for her options, she finds Caldwell. Right back to Angstad-Lido.
So Oregon hitting a lot of their breaks now, which is opening up that open side space. Oh,
such tight spaces, but Davis is there for the score.
Beautiful, beautiful attacking the break side. So you see Oregon still trying to catch up on that break side throw, Ohio State is still trying to catch up on that break side. Oregon kind of has one step ahead of them, and Ohio State needs to just play a little bit tighter. They're giving a lot of that space, and Oregon is not the team to do that to, as they will take advantage, as we've seen. They now take, what is that, a 5-0 run, going now into halftime. And there's the 5 points they need. So the question is, can they keep that lead?
So with that score, Oregon will take half. They are up by 5 over Ohio State. We will take a quick break, but when you return, you will have the second half of play on day 2 of pool play at the USA Ultimate College Championships, presented by Fulcrum Media. Welcome back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are at halftime during this round of pool play at the USA Ultimate College Championships. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Laurel Oldershaw. And Laurel, both teams coming into the game very evenly matched, but in the second half of the first half, Oregon just really going on a run.
Yeah, that was, I got to be honest, not the end of the half I was expecting. You know, Ohio State really early on matching that level of hype and energy that Oregon brought into the game and connecting on those deep hucks. It seemed they got a little bit flustered in the end of that first half. Oregon starting to throw kind of a junky first look so that it takes away the first few initial deep shots that Ohio State might have, disrupting any pool plays. And I imagine Oregon to continue to do some similar kind of junky Ds going into the second half to really slow them down. Similarly, Oregon really kind of taking advantage of both knowing they have to get the deep huck off and then also allowing their teammates to catch up and making the kind of the smaller short throws that really benefit that team and benefit the success, right? If you don't get the deep huck in the end zone, you don't want to just throw it away.
Exactly. So Ohio State needing to overcome a 5-point deficit, and they have some championship bracket implications too with this game, with the other games going on, in the pool.
Yeah.
So Ohio State will start the half on offense. Quick swings across the field.
And we see again that junk. And a lot of what it does in slowing down the deep game is to put a defender like Ella Hansen or Haley Walrus in the deep end just to kind of take away those first initial looks. So that if Fever does want to make a deep huck, they have to do it now from where you see Jazierski or as they move it to the middle, non-power play positions, non-power throw positions.
Jazierski with the disc underneath. That's a layout from Pruitt. The shot is up. Jazierski trailing, and that we are waiting to see from the observer if it hit the ground or if it was up.
You know,
let's take a second look. This is a great angle we do have here on the replay.
Great catch.
I got to be honest, I think it was up. I think it was up. I think it's real close. The question is, so you know, if it essentially touches a blade of grass or turf, then it is officially down. However, I think
goes to the observer, and the observer actually rules down.
Rules that it's down. It's a non-catch. So that's something where, you know, even if she does get her hand under the disc, if the trailing edge of the disc hits the grass first or at the same time, it is a down throw.
So Oregon, with their first possession on offense in the second half, Caldwell swinging to Hess. Hess to Hansen. Hansen, that flick huck, but D'd away.
And that's a little bit lazy of a throw from Hansen. It's not something we typically see from her. You know, she does have the strength to really put it anywhere, and she kind of floats it right above Boyle, whereas she could have put it on either side of that of Boyle to run onto.
So Cola Vincenzo has the disc. The 5'8" junior. She's a tall 5'8".
That's funny. So you see now kind of Oregon has a little bit of a junky look, or just, let's just say, a transition person defense. They've got a lot of kind of people here in the center of the disc, and that's just kind of taking away those immediate undercuts so that Jazierski can't just turn it and throw, except she does. Can Hansen catch up? This is a great matchup of Callahan's nominees, and Hansen does the better. Hansen does a great job of seeing where the disc is and then finding her mark so that she goes and bodies her up and then attacks the disc.
So immediate deep cut from Ofterheide, but allows for some space underneath. Boyle with the disc, under to Ofterheide. Hansen again. You can see when Hansen's mark, Pruitt, gets there. It's immediate straight up. So instead of the huck, it's on this far sideline. Hansen again in power position, this time going for the backhand. That is floating, and there's Jazierski.
Yeah, so Ella Hansen, great upline cut, gets the disc in power position, but still putting just a little too much touch. It's tough to really have those deep hucks when you're into the kind of the close third of the end zone, right outside the end zone when you're that close. You really have to put a lot of touch.
So Jazierski with the disc, lefty backhand for the reset. It's always fun to see players use both hands for their throws. Lim Oregon forces the hammer straight to the end zone, but Hansen is there.
So you see on both sides, right? They're getting those deep looks, except the deep looks are already so deep that their players have to wait under the disc, and that's when they're losing that advantage of the cut.
Strike up line, but the one-on-one matchup allows for the break,
Yeah,
or the block.
Big layout D there from Jazierski, and she's a playmaker, you know. I'm sure over halftime she's thinking to herself, all right, it's really time to step up and do what I know I can do. And I'm sure she has the same kind of conversation with her other teammates and coaches.
Shooting for the end zone, no good. Hansen will pick up for Oregon. Lots of back and forth possession-wise so far in this point.
And the question is, you know, who can really sustain this? So in a lot of ways, it benefits Ohio State. You make Oregon have to slow their offense down. You have to make them run a lot. And Ohio State just has to lose by 3 or less. And so they can lose this game. They don't have to get that many points back. Oregon, on the other hand, has to win by 5 to guarantee they're going into the second round and not leave it up to the point diff, because we do have that North Carolina State-Stanford game happening right now, and that can really impact the seeding of this bracket, having Oregon having lost yesterday to North Carolina State.
Hansen with the disc. Blade around, looking to stay in bounds. It does. Nice read from Turner to Boyle.
Good movement there from Oregon to clear that break side space.
And nice leading inside flick. Caldwell on the goal line, and that's Oregon with the score. Hansen catching it.
And it's good to see Oregon kind of get back to basics and really get to the small tosses. Scoring again there. You know, the big thing I want to say is that it did take a lot of energy from both sides. And Ohio State, especially from Pruitt and Jazierski, 2 of their bigger name players. So they pride themselves on using all 7 on the line. And I think they're going to have to really step that up and commit to it as a team in this moment to really have that be a success.
So over on the other field, Stanford has a 3-goal lead. They're 8, North Carolina State 5. Whereas on this field, we have a now 6-goal lead for Oregon.
I think Oregon's got to feel good about that, you know, and that feeling is a big thing, right? You always play better when you're feeling better. And I'm sure Oregon's going to come out here with the focus of, all right, keep this feeling, just hold on to this feeling. We're going to ride this into the end of the game. Because essentially now we've accomplished what we need to accomplish, and we just have to keep and end and close the game, right? It's hard. So you can't just be the first half for a starting team. You really got to close it. And so I think Oregon's got that, and they're going to really have to do that now.
Pull went out of bounds. So Peters will take it to the middle of the field. Zhang back to Peters. Inside, nice backhand.
It's a good find through the middle. A little give goes. A lot of holes there in the middle of the field as Oregon transitions out of their zone.
And Ohio State taking advantage of those opportunities so far in the center of the field. There's Peters. Lots of inside flicks from Peters. Emily Barrett on the goal line will continue to Sieber, and back to Barrett, and Ohio State getting a much needed point on the board.
Yeah, that's got to feel good for them. One, it just kind of, you know, calms them down and says, hey, we can actually do this. And 2, you know, they're proven now that they can play the small ball game. And I think one thing we're going to see, because we've seen such a huck and run game, is that both teams are going to throw a little bit more of a zone, something to really slow that down, and it's going to require teams to step up their small ball game. And so I expect to see a lot more of that from Fever, as well as, you know, connect. They have to really connect on those hucks now. It's going to be their next kind of challenge to really finish this game out and keep them in championship run.
This game is one of 22 games live streamed at the college championships via USA Ultimate social channels as well as UltiWorld. The USA Ultimate streams are available on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then the semifinals will be live on May 27th, and then the finals live on May 28th from ESPNU, the ESPN app, and ESPN3. That just really allows the sport to reach an even bigger audience through all of these different ways to watch our sport.
There's only so much hype you can get when you're following a game online, especially when in the past scores have been updated slowly, or you're looking through Twitter trying to figure out what's happening. So it's awesome to have so many more opportunities to see Ultimate and such high-level Ultimate.
Nice continuation backhand to Walrus, but her flick is no good.
Uncharacteristic throwaway from her, and a very characteristic throw there from Ohio State, striking deep right away. Great movement from Ohio State to get back into this game.
So Sieber with the catch for OSU, and that will take their deficit within 4. And Laurel, as you mentioned earlier, explain a little bit the championship bracket implications for the pool right now.
Yeah, so, you know, it seems like Oregon's going to win this game just by kind of following the play or the flow. Except one thing you really want to pay attention to, Emmy, as you mentioned, that 9-5 in the score differential. So yesterday, Oregon lost to North Carolina State, kind of a princess team right now from the Atlantic Coast region. Usually University of Virginia is taking that second seed, as they historically have. But North Carolina State kind of coming out of nowhere, taking that seed behind the hands of Ashley Powell and Brianna Campbell, and they're doing a great job beating Oregon, upsetting them 15-11. That puts Oregon now at a -4 when you're looking at the bracket, particularly because Ohio State beat North Carolina State yesterday. So if Oregon wins this, there's a 3-way tie. That's where the point diff comes in, as only the top 3 teams of each bracket will go on to championship play. Stanford right now set to be the #1 seed, although if they lose to North Carolina State, who knows what will happen with the bracket. And right now that leaves a 3-way tie between Oregon, Ohio State, and North Carolina State with the point diff of 4 points. So simply put, Oregon has to win by 5 in order to guarantee their second round going into the next round. And if they don't, it's going to come down to point differential of the entire bracket, which includes their scores against Stanford as well as against Cornell, which Oregon does have the advantage to Ohio State, and we still have to then compare the North Carolina State and Stanford game. So that is the grand scheme of the point implications. And something, you know, Oregon has to have in the back of their mind, that we just need to score and maintain that 5-point lead.
A little bit of May Madness here in Milwaukee as Oregon is on offense, so far working it with a lot of short throws. Big yardage gain, though, from Hansen to Davis. However, there is a call on the field. A travel was called. However, observer rules no travel.
Yeah. Great body there by Davis to really put herself in between the disc and her defender, so that Barrett, if she wanted to make a play on the disc, would have to go right through Davis, which would be a foul.
Yeah. Well, they were fresh. They were like, I think they don't go as deep.
Have this matchup deep of Walrus versus Jazierski, and great find there, Walrus.
Great connection from Hansen to Walrus. you could see that Hansen knew where Walrus was cutting, and likewise, Haley knew exactly what Ella wanted for that connection. Just perfectly timed.
And that's a lot of both teammate and Frisbee knowledge, right? So they know that their goal coming into this is to play fun Oregon offense, and that does involve a lot of deep shots. And so they've done this for many years now, and they're essentially looking at their defender, trying to take advantage of where the open space might be. Jazierski's caught on this right side closer to your screen, and that leaves that corner there open for Walrus to go and attack, and Walrus is a fantastic deep cutter. You would never want to go against her in the air.
You really don't. And with that score, that puts Oregon's lead back at 5. They have 10, Ohio State 5. It's a game to 15. And we are about 30 minutes from soft cap, 50 minutes from the hard cap.
So enough time here to put it away. But this is the moment, right? You say essentially everything is set up for Oregon to be successful and to move on. The question is whether or not they will close. And with a team with that much institutional knowledge, they should be able to. However, it is a game of runs. Ohio State has done some really incredible things thus far in the tournament, and I would not be surprised if they march right back in it.
Disc is checked in at the front of the end zone and dropped, really giving Oregon a prime spot. Hansen picking up, will walk it out to the front of the end zone, and quick dish, familiar receiver in Caldwell. That her 4th goal of the game.
And that's a great setup there from Caldwell. You know, Oregon's offense gets into a great vert stack at the end zone. You see in this play, you don't even see Caldwell because she's given herself so much space that Ella Hansen just has to drop a nice high release dime for Caldwell to run into it. That is one of the best things that players can do, is create space for themselves to be successful. Caldwell, they're really opening up the space for her to run into, so it's an easier throw from Hansen.
So now Oregon taking back to their 6-goal lead. Ohio State with a little bit of handler miscommunication at the beginning of the last point, resulting in a 1-pass break conversion for Oregon. So if you're Ohio State, kind of knowing, you know, you want to get more points on the board, what are kind of your strategies to be as efficient as possible?
Yeah, I think at this point, if I'm Ohio State, I would be a little bit freaking out. And I think as a coach, that would be the one thing I would say is, hey, we need to get out of our heads. We're right now making uncharacteristic errors that really don't have anything to do with us and our play and our potential. We're going to be okay. That's a huge kind of benefit right now that Oregon has they have the momentum, the energy, kind of that mental advantage, and Ohio State has to drag them out of that. That, I think, honestly is going to be critical in impacting their connections and their ability and chemistry to work with one another. And then I'm also thinking we got to figure out a way to work through this zone. So Oregon, again, sets this zone where they have a chaser, they have people moving around those those handlers to really prevent that upline cut. You see Oftred Heidi, number 5, really putting herself in that under space so somebody can't just get the easy under and the deep huck. That's going to be, that has been one of the most successful ways to take away the momentum of the Ohio State offense. So what I would say, though, is even we saw earlier in the Pitt game, is Pitt was playing so far on one side, there wasn't a lot of space to work with.
Here, putting that throw to space really opens up a lot of opportunities, exactly to your point, Laurel.
Yeah.
And now the end zone shot that really was a missed opportunity for Ohio State, as they had such nice offense in the points leading up to it.
Yeah, Pruitt's going to remember that one for a very long time, knowing that is not the throw you want.
Walrus, such a commanding presence to Caldwell, powerful receiver, bobbled from Rogers. Now going to pick up is Peters.
now we have a person defense, so the question is, can Ohio State take advantage of that? And there's the huck.
Good body out from the Oregon defender.
Especially on Sieber, who's one of the stronger deep cutters for Ohio State. There's a turnover now here, so another opportunity to capitalize for Ohio State.
And Ohio State really finds that around backhand. That stays in bounds. Pruitt to Sieber, up the line. Leading pass to the end zone. The one-handed grab to Emily Barrett is good for the score.
And that was a beautiful play and a beautiful flow from three of the big names on Ohio State. Those players are going to really need to step it up and continue these connections along with Jezierski to really to bring Ohio State back into this game.
Finding so much space for Emily Barrett to run onto it. Barrett, the 5'8" junior from Pleasanton, California.
I was born there, fun fact. Not that this is about me, but Barrett is also one of those talented players with a lot of body and a lot of trust in that space. So really looking forward it's been really fun to watch her play all day and looking forward to what she'll do for the rest of this game. I'm excited, this kind of comes to a point where you really got to, dig deep and see what you can bring, and I think that really defines a team more than what a team does when they're successful. So you think back to that 2014 season for Ohio State, I think they might have lost one game at Stanford Invite and nothing else, and that really said a lot about the team and that they were able to both maintain leads and bring them back. This team has had a little bit less success this year than that 2014 season, but in a lot of ways looks just as good and has the potential to be just as good and to make it as far. This is going to be a defining moment now to bring themselves at least within 3 so that they can get themselves into that second round contention.
The pull lands out. Walrus taking it to the brick mark. You have Hansen in the cutting space. Walrus in the handler spot. Striking and filling. Angstad-Lido over the top to Hansen. Hansen, lots of yard gainage to Boyle. Continues to Caldwell. Quick to Hansen. A little bit late bid, but I think that was going to be a tough one to catch.
Yeah, I got to say, I think that's the third miscue Hansen has had this half, which I think is tough, and she's probably thinking now that she's got to start connecting on those. It is 11-6, which seems like a great lead, but it is that 5-point diff that's kind of their safety bubble right now, and they don't want to lose it. Ohio State coming out with a zone initially there to take away those first few hucks, which did open up the space for Boyle underneath. But they're going to have to maintain and now score this point. Unfortunately, it looks like Angstad-Lido is coming off with an injury from that bid, which is always a tough thing to see.
So much emotion. You put your body on the line for the disc, and it hurts too.
Laying out is not supposed to be painless, or pain-free, I should say. It is, though, I would say to everybody out there, really make sure you're working on your layout form. The more you can practice that, the safer you will be when you lay out.
Exactly. So another opportunity for Oregon on offense. Boyle is near sideline. Hansen, a little bit of fakes, but instead, Boyle looked like was looking for Walrus, but didn't have quite enough. It had the outside, but not quite enough in.
Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, you've got the foot block potential from Sadie Jezierski. That's going to be a challenge. Jezierski's been rather quiet the second half after coming out with a couple points right away, and she's still looking deep. big mark from Boyle. Oregon's done a really good job in now having a more straight up mark so that they can take away those deep hucks.
And the distance, the spacing that the handler defense Oregon has is to kind of rely on those swings across. Jezierski, though, looking for the end zone, and Barrett, one of about maybe 3 potential receivers, gets that catch.
Yeah, you know, I gotta be honest, that should not have worked, but it did. Jezierski originally really looking for Barrett, except in general, you want a few less defenders in that area. An extremely tight space, maybe 1 foot away from the cone. So quite a placement. Great rundown from Barrett to have that connection between the two. That's a lot of trust right there.
So much trust, and from the other receivers too. Yeah. First you see it go past Koval and Chenzo, then Stacy Liu, because Barrett says, no, I've got this.
Yeah, we saw that earlier, right, in the UNC game. 2 defenders go down and try to catch it, and both essentially catch it at the same time and turn it into a drop. And, you know, that's where communication comes in. You just say, hey, I got it, I have the better angle. So a lot of trust. Good for Ohio State to get back on the board, though. That's the first time they've gotten a break since, actually, they got a break this half, but it's good that they're now getting 2 breaks, starting to kind of bring that point diff down. That's great news for them, not great news for Oregon. So Oregon's going to be really trying to push that here. The other thing you want to take into consideration, if Oregon wins, that means, so let's say they were to score this, right? They would win on offense. So if they win on offense, that would have that 5-point differential. So Ohio State is definitely going to have to break again to make sure that when Oregon does win, it's going to be less than 5. I shouldn't say when Oregon wins. Ohio State can definitely come back.
Ohio State definitely staying in the game. They're down by 4. Hansen, comfortable swing to Walrus. Walrus looking for Hess, but not inbounds.
It floats out. You know what I love? Ohio State is doing a 2-person cup right there with 1 forced middle as well as 2 distance between the defenders and the handlers. So giving a little bit of space back allows them to take up more space and take away that deep throw.
Sieber over to Sandstrom. Lots of patience from this Ohio State team. Now looking for the end zone, and Pruitt is there.
And Ohio State is coming back. I gotta say, the few times they've been really successful have been Jezierski and Barrett Hucks and Sieber and Pruitt small ball. So it's interesting the way they have the versatility in the team's dynamic just based upon the personnel they put on the field.
So that's 3 goals in a row from Ohio State, going on a 3-0 run in this second half of pool play. Championship bracket on the line. Ohio State taking it within 3. Oregon still 11. We're 37 minutes to hard cap, so just under 20 minutes to the soft cap.
Yeah. And Oregon's going to take a timeout there. You've got their older players who've retired coming on and providing both cool towels to cool them down, water, as well as Sour Pouch Kids to kind of get that last-minute bolt of energy. Because what they need to do right now is get back to those earlier points where they're scoring in 1 throw. Ohio State's doing a much better job with that kind of junky 2-person zone look, which essentially just takes away, both the view, right? So Ella Hansen's not looking at a beautifully open deep space, as well as kind of takes away that undercuts like we saw Oregon do to Ohio State, which takes away that that undercut to a deep look later. So both junks, I think, coming out, slowing down that huck and gun. However, that does mean a lot more running, a lot more kind of small passes, a lot more having to be mentally in it and focused for longer extended periods of time. You know, Oregon's got to do that quicker than Ohio State. Ohio State right now has just got to hold on and keep this point diff small.
Exactly. And a junk zone. Laurel, why is it called why is a zone called a junk zone? Not every zone is a junk.
That's true. So there's multiple zones. The idea behind a zone is that instead of marking a person, you're marking a space, and you're taking away a space. Zones are different junks, different zones are created to do different things. You have a 3-person cup or a 4-person cup that Stanford actually likes to run, which really makes the space around the throwers so small that it's hard to get good throws off. This 2-person, well, they're not throwing it right now. Actually, they are. So this 2-person junk that Ohio State is doing really takes away the initial round. It is a forced middle, which means that both of those 2 people in the front are forcing their players in rather than one specific flick or defense mark. And then the rest of the people in the zone, kind of that first line of 3 as well as those deeper lines of 2, are trading off players to take away the initial those initial looks, forcing Oregon to have more IO throws and more throws in general in order to march down the field. However, they've done a great job and now have the disc in the hands of Walrus. You also now see a transition out as Ohio State starts to play person, but still kind of a force-up a big great jump in there by Hansen, but they had kind of that forced straight-up mark that prevents kind of those immediate breaker rounds.
So a lot of patience from the Oregon offense working through that force middle, and they took the force middle and really worked it up the middle, executing very well on those inside-out throws, and then such a nice backhand around from Ofterheide to Hansen.
I mean, this is, I don't want to say the team that Lou built, but Lou Burris had a huge impact on this team. One of the guys that came up with the Kung Fu throwing routine, which is a pretty traditional, now at this point, throwing practice for players to get in, as well as doing a lot of the Zen throwing that Ben, I'm forgetting his last name.
Wiggins.
Ben Wiggins, thank you, created out of Seattle. So that one focuses a little bit more on single throws, whereas the Kung Fu is a little bit more of a stretching for a variety of throws. So Oregon has done their throwing work in the past and has, as you see in that last point, the capability to work it through. In Ohio State, though, just has to simply maintain possession right now. As you see, it's only 4 points right now, and that's going to maintain pretty good opportunity for them to get to the second round.
And if you're a young player and you haven't done the Zen throwing or the Kung Fu throwing, I can probably speak for Laurel and highly, highly recommend it. As you mentioned, they both focus on different things, but especially in this college scene and in the middle school and high school, you have athletes, but the technique and the practice you can put into your throwing makes all the difference, especially when you get into championship play like what we're seeing here. So leading ahead, it is out of reach for Ohio State, giving Oregon another scoring opportunity. Ofterheide looks underneath, continuing to Caldwell. Swings over to Ofterheide. Big grab from Rodolante. And not in, right on the line. Ofterheide catches it. However, there is a pick called.
That is definitely a pick. Drives right through the defender. Pruitt had nowhere to go. So, unlike basketball, you cannot pick. For those if this is your first time, you cannot get in the way, or you cannot have your defender be purposefully blocked by your team, even if it's an accident.
But
there is the break throw to Morgan Caldwell, and great, that's kind of, again, what she does great, which is to set it up on the open side with that 7 cut back into the break side throw, and Adelante just hits her right there. So Oregon's still able to convert, and that's what they need to do, is continue to get that breaks and maintain this point diff, because this is now the 5-point diff. So if they can kind of ride this wave into the end, this would be what they need.
however, just when you think that Oregon has full control with the point diff, we've seen this Ohio State squad answer back.
That's right. I feel like Deanna Ball she's a very strategic coach. She knows her players. She knows what they can do. She's been around this scene for a long time. She has multiple worlds experience. She's ready to take this she's going to pick a great fever line and take this team kind of to the next level and use that strategy from a coaching perspective to allow Ohio State to be successful. Ohio State, though, right now has to really focus on execution, right? Ultimate is a game of throws and catches. They're going to need to catch just a couple more than Oregon right now in order to really not win, but maintain their chances to go into that next round.
Survive and advance, as they say. What both teams are hoping for, but they each have a different path to get there. That pull bounces and starts to roll, but is picked up by Peters. Now to Jezierski, back to Peters. Jezierski clearing to create more space, ends up finding Zhang. Back to Peters. Low throw to Pruitt, and Pruitt's looking for Jezierski. It's still live, but Clifton gets the block and then kind of keeps her body there to keep the second attempt. However, there is some discussion.
There is a question if that's a foul call. It'll be, I think, Jezierski felt like she maybe had a play on the disc that Clifton got in the middle of, or potentially Clifton could have fouled it. It's, I think they're just kind of talking it through right now. Yeah, that's a good spot. It's a good defense. They're going to go to the observer right here.
Each player is entitled to their own vertical space, and they're also entitled to their path to the disc. But then it gets a little tricky when both players are kind of going for the disc.
Definitely. And it looks like it's going to be no foul. And you see on that Oregon zone, right? The key, one of the other benefits of playing zone is that you have a singular deep player that takes away the majority of the deep throws, which Clifton did a great job of right there.
Hansen puts up the huck. 3-on-1. Sieber intercepts to Jezierski. Up the line. And moving a little too fast. Back in Hansen's hands. Over to Rogers. Up the line to Davis. And Oregon continuing, getting the underneath yardage gains. Hansen, high release backhand. Sieber intercepts.
Sieber and Pruitt here, back to the small ball they've been doing. This is the part where legs really come in. We see Jezierski really not in this in the TV at all because she's so far on the left field or on the other side. Now kind of coming into the play, and it looks like they're doing a little give and go, looking for that open throw. They just know they need to score and they need to just do. That's essentially it. But unfortunately, another throwaway from Ohio State, giving Oregon another chance to capitalize and build this lead even larger than it already is.
You can see a little bit of fatigue setting in, even for that handler cut to come back.
Exactly.
Maybe not as quick as it would have been in the first half or perhaps even previous rounds so far. And another example gives Ohio State an opportunity. Sieber with the disc. However, there is an official's timeout, observer's timeout, we should say. And Peters will take an injury sub. And whenever the disc is tapped back in, everyone will have to go back to where the injury occurred. Substituting in is Tiffany Lim, and
this is always the challenge of calls, is when do we tap back in, when can we start play? So when you do have an injury sub, you can't officially start playing again until, especially with observers, till observers say you can play, but also when the the substitute comes in and taps in that they're ready to play, and then that's when you see the transition. There's often violations just from pure misunderstanding of when the disc is in or when it's out. The question I think right now that Fagan is asking is if there was an injury before the throw, then the disc should go back, as play needs to stop when the injury is called.
And on the reverse side, if from an Ohio State standpoint, if they were wide open, they do not want to give Oregon a free mark or free defensive positioning. It does look like the disc is tapped back in. It will stay with Sieber. And Pruitt to Jezierski. High release Blady flick. Almost looked like Zhang might be able to get the trailing edge, but not quite.
And there's that lefty flick we see from Jezierski again. She has their visionary eyes on that far side open of the field where there's a lot of space and a couple of defenders who can run onto it. However, with it being so floaty, it's hard to execute that perfectly.
Two Ohio State defenders coming underneath. However, Davis is there for Oregon. Dish to Clifton and continues to Davis. Looks a little bit shaky on the landing, but Oregon gets the goal.
And that's big. That's the movement that you see Oregon doing. And this is clearly a team that has been hucking and running many times in their lives. As Oregon has now, I think, definitely concede the legs longer than Ohio State. I shouldn't say longer, I don't know the average height, but they have the legs longer and deeper into this game. And this is the part where Oregon is used to doing this, right? Especially their top 5 to 10 players who know that when it gets towards the end of the game, we're going to continue to do a huck and run strategy. Whereas Ohio State not quite having the same stamina to go into it.
So Oregon 14, Ohio State 8. It is a game to 15. We are approximately 4 minutes away from the soft cap, but that really should not affect what the final score is for the game.
So a few different opportunities here for Oregon to take it away and be at that +5, right? They can get that break now, which would take it 15-8, and they have a +7, which should secure them the entrance into the next round. If, let's say, they go down here, Ohio State holds, then Oregon has an opportunity there on, I believe 2 opportunities, right? If it's 9, they have 2 opportunities, if Ohio State breaks again, for them to score on O and maintain that +5. So Ohio State needs to get 3 points in a row now in order to take it to a 4-point diff and to keep them in this tournament, to secure themselves in this tournament, because we still don't know the score of the other game and what's going to happen.
Last check, it was Stanford 13, North Carolina State 9.
So still very close. Could be, kind of will come down to the full point diff, and I actually don't really have those exact numbers in front of me, I should be honest to the viewers.
And great grab from Barrett, continuing, and quick score from Ohio State. That's Whitney Schott, the freshman, with the goal.
So that's big, right? That's got to feel good for Ohio State. But I think they know that this is the point they need to get now. It's the next 2 that they need to really maintain, or the next 3 actually, to safely put them into the next round.
They have 2 objectives here. Number 1, keep Oregon from scoring to allow more points in the game. And by them scoring, that narrows that point differential, as you just mentioned, Laurel.
Yeah, these national tournaments, right, both this and club nationals, because they're so split over 4 days, they're a real big test of endurance and strategy and mental, and essentially pushing off fatigue. So these are games and these are tournaments where you have to really take into consideration all of the different competition. College nationals is very different than club nationals in the sense that bringing in 20 rather than 16 players allows for a 5-team bracket, which then makes it kind of complicated, particularly the 2 and 3 going into a pre-quarters game, whereas other teams, there is that quarterfinal matchup and pre-quarterfinal matchup, but not the same kind of tightness with the other, 3 teams in your bracket.
Exactly. In the club championship division, there are only 16 teams nationally who make it. This tournament has 20 teams in both divisions, women's and men's. Two here fighting very hard in their pool play. Oregon looking to score and put away the game with a 6-point differential, 6-point win. Ohio State marking up pretty close on their person defense. Oregon gaining yards underneath to Davis. Continuing to Rolante. Hess to Hansen. Hansen had Caldwell in the end zone, but guarded by Sieber and a pretty tough defender. Still goes over the top, not in. Barrett on Hansen. And there is a call, believed to be a pit call.
So Oregon's right there. You know, they've got all of the pieces. And there it is, Haley Walrus with the open side break cut, or I should say, the break side cut there in the end zone to really take this game home.
So Oregon will win by 6. Having a really roller coaster of a college championship so far, being upset by North Carolina State, then also losing but also maintaining seed to Stanford, but then victorious over Ohio State. Ohio State also staying in it, but not quite enough. That'll do it for our coverage here, but stay tuned. We still have 2 more rounds. Coming up next is Wisconsin versus Georgia in the men's division. But for Laura Oldershaw, I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. You're watching the USA Ultimate College Championships, presented by Fulcrum Media.